That was one of the hardest things I ever had to give up. It was way harder than even smoking. What I was doing was I was self-medicating. I was telling myself that I worked hard today for my family. I made a lot of money, so I deserve my reward and my treat. Hi, I'm Jason Muller. I'm the care pastor here at the Ransom Church in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I have the privilege of being one of Annette's pastors, and I'm very grateful to be here. God and I had this come to Jesus meeting when I was 39 years old, and it's part of my personal testimony. It's something I share quite often with people because I wasn't living my life that way at all. I was selfish. I was constantly consuming, and now I could say, oh, that's because I was trying to fill myself with something, and whether that was food, alcohol, cigarettes. I was a 30-year smoker, 2 packs a day. I mean, I couldn't get enough into me to make me feel better. Things started turning around and my attitudes started changing about how I was living my life, and smoking went away. 30-year smoker, 2 packs a day. And people would say, well, why do you smoke? And I'm like, because it made me feel good every 5 minutes, literally. The next thing that I gave up was drinking. I haven't had a drink in 11 years now. Wow. And then, I started really being concerned about my health and where I was at, but I didn't change my eating. It's my confession as a pastor that the last thing that I'm struggling with is carb addiction. Well, ironically, at the church here, I'm the recovery pastor.
So you've got the skills.
I've had an incredible life career of working in a prison for 4 years. I've been in the military for 4 years. I worked for an organization where I was a lead regional sales manager for 16 years, and that's when I kind of got the call. Was during that time, and I like to talk about I like giving cheap advice. And what's so interesting about cheap advice is that for you as the individual, you the person I'm getting to share with, it's free.
Yeah.
You didn't pay the consequences that came with it. Whereas I paid terrible prices for the life consequences that I've lived, and it's caused my physical health immensely. I'm diabetic, and in fact, I was just reminded of this. I became a diabetic after I quit smoking.
Oh.
I know that's not good science to say that one is correlated with the other, but it was very interesting that happened. I also probably put on 35 pounds at the time, maybe 40.
Right, and I'm sure you've seen this, that when people give up something they're addicted to, they'll quickly substitute. Yeah. And that's not a terrible thing, but it should be a season of substitution. Sure. So when you gave up cigarettes, what did you substitute?
Well, I have to really share. I ate for years ice cream and cookies, half gallon every night, washed it down with a box of cookies. And part of it is I've learned now through spending time with you and coming to the keto group, which is incredibly healthy for me because I have to have a group, I have to have community. Every time I was a child, I was rewarded with food and candy and sugar from my grandmother, my mother. We all lived together in a house side by side, and if mom didn't have it, grandma had it, because this was how we were told that we were good. And
yep.
And then when we were bad, there was a lot of yelling and screaming, maybe some beatings when my dad was alive. that was a thing.
Yeah.
Now I look back at that and I realized what I was doing was I was self-medicating. I was telling myself that I worked hard today for my family. I made a lot of money because I made a lot of money back then. So I deserve my reward and my treat. And that became that half gallon of ice cream. And it's not an exaggeration. I tell all kinds of crazy stories when people want to say, how serious was your ice cream addiction? That was one of the hardest things I ever had to give up. It was way harder than even smoking. I'm probably the best testament to saying that you can't out-exercise your fork.
Right.
People would be like, oh, Jason, you're in such good shape. You look great. Because they knew that I would ride literally 5,000 plus miles a year on my bike. It never helped my diabetes, never made me better. And it was in that journey and ultimately finding you that I learned that it was what I was eating and what I was consuming was the big problem. So during my keto journey, I have to tell you, I gave up donuts and cookies. Like, I will never eat them again, just like I will never eat ice cream again. And the last cookie I ate was disgusting. It was from Hy-Vee. It was a grocery store cookie. I mean, I'm never going to eat my mom's or my wife's cookies again. And I have to do that because I love them.
So if you could go back to before you really unpacked the ketogenic journey and tell yourself something that you know now that you didn't know then, what would that be?
To help you write your book faster.
Oh, that's perfect.
It is, but I finished the book. I am just still awed at how well you can tell a story about somebody's life, whether it's David in the book or your mom, and integrate your knowledge of medicine and being a doctor. I was just blown away by the book.
Oh.
You lay out a process that is much clearer than anybody else I've seen so far. And it's the benefit of doing the step-by-steps, because I made all the same mistakes as David. I'm like kind of tripping through this, and so my only desire to change one thing would be to encourage you to finish the book sooner.
If you'd like to learn more about my latest book, Keto Continuum, click here. I'll see you there.